Okay, so let's dive right in. Why on earth would a top-tier quant fund, right, a company like Highflyer that makes its money using really complex financial models, why would they risk, well, potentially billions chasing artificial general intelligence, AGI?
It does seem like a huge leap, doesn't it? I mean, the connection between super rigorous financial math and the pretty speculative world of trying to build human-level AI,
Yeah.
it's not obvious at first glance.
Not at all. And that's what we're exploring in this deep dive. We're digging into the origin story of Highflyer's big move into AGI, mostly through this separate outfit they set up called DeepSeek.
Yeah, DeepSeek launched, was it May 2023?
That's right. And we're looking at what some might just call a kind of mad ambition. We've got some great insights from articles by Young Waves to help us unpack it.
And it's important to frame Highflyer here. They aren't your typical tech startup playing in the AI sandbox. This is a major player in finance managing like hundreds of billions. So when they make a move this big into AI, it's significant.
Absolutely. And like you said, DeepSeek was officially launched in May 2023, but this wasn't some spur-of-the-moment thing. Their goal, stated pretty explicitly, isn't just to build another fancy chatbot.
No, they're aiming higher.
Much higher. They talk about building truly human-level AI, actual AGI, and wanting to research and unravel more mysteries around intelligence itself. It feels more fundamental.
Which brings us back to the why. Why would a company that's crushing it in finance make such a hard turn into something so, well, uncertain and expensive? It
Yeah.
doesn't immediately look like it serves their core quant business.
Exactly. And this is where it gets really interesting. It turns out Highflyer wasn't exactly new to the AI hardware game. Get this.
Uh-huh.
The Young Waves articles we're looking at, they point out that by 2021, Highflyer was one of the very, very few non-tech companies in China that already had over 10,000 NVIDIA A100 GPUs.
Wow. 10,000 A100s in 2021.
Yeah.
That's serious firepower. That puts them ahead of a lot of big tech names at the time, computationally speaking.
Right. These are the super powerful chips you need for training really big AI models. Having that many that early, it signals this wasn't just dipping a toe in the water. This was a major long-term infrastructure play.
Yeah, that kind of scale, acquired back then, definitely suggests a long-term vision. It wasn't just a reaction to, ChatGPT bursting onto the scene. They were committed way before that.
Precisely. The articles reveal they'd already sunk serious money into building their own deep learning platforms. Way back in 2019, they launched something called Yingwo 1 with about 1,100 GPUs.
Okay, still significant for 2019.
And then Yingwo 2 in 2021, that's the one with roughly 10,000 A100s. We're talking initial hardware investments around $28 million for the first one and maybe $140 million for the second, just for the chips.
So huge capital outlay, and that's before you even get to the cost of running these things, training the models. The articles mentioned like $50 million initial investment for the large model work itself, plus millions for every training cycle.
Yeah, the costs are astronomical, which, again, seems kind of paradoxical for a quant fund, doesn't it? Their whole world is about managing risk precisely.
It does seem like a paradox on the surface. So what's driving it? What's underneath this mad ambition, as you called it?
Well, the article suggests it ties back to Highflyer's own unique story. They weren't founded by people coming out of big Western hedge funds, which is common in China's quant scene. They were a homegrown team.
Right, kind of outsiders.
Exactly. Outsiders who grew incredibly fast, hitting over 100 billion RMB in assets under management in just 6 years or so. They built their success by, as the articles put it, never following conventional paths.
Okay, so that disruptive mindset might be key. If you've built your company by doing things differently in finance, maybe you're more inclined to tackle a massive unconventional challenge like AGI.
Seems plausible, and it looks like a lot of this traces back to the founder, Liang Wenfeng. Apparently, even when he was studying AI back in 2008, long before the current AI boom, he had this strong belief that AI would fundamentally change the world.
2008, wow. So this isn't some recent conversion. He's been thinking about AI's potential for a long, long time.
It seems so. And instead of going the typical route, like joining a big tech firm after his degree, he apparently went off on his own. The story goes he holed up in a cheap rental in Chengdu.
Chengdu, not exactly Silicon Valley or Beijing.
Right. And he just started experimenting, trying to apply AI to different problems before eventually landing on finance. It suggests this fundamental curiosity about AI itself, not just seeing it as a career path within an existing structure.
That's really interesting. It's sort of scientific hunger driving things.
Yeah. And there's this great little anecdote in one of the articles. Early on, a friend of his, who was also doing unconventional stuff, building weird flying gadgets in Shenzhen, asked Liang to join him.
Okay. Where's this going?
That friend went on to found DJI, the drone company.
No way.
Ooh.
DJI.
Yeah.
So Liang was rubbing shoulders with that kind of ambitious, maybe slightly crazy innovator right from the start.
It paints a picture, doesn't it? A mindset willing to chase really big, seemingly out there goals.
It definitely does. And it brings us back to the money, the apparent conflict with being a commercial entity doing limitless research that might not pay off quickly.
And Liang Wenfeng's reported response to that is pretty telling. He basically said, look, the key is that we want to do this, can do this, so we are one of the best suited candidates.
A sort of because we can and we want to justification. The article calls it an inexplicable optimism, right?
Yeah, but maybe it's not inexplicable if you trace it back to that early conviction about AI, combined with the success and resources they built up. It feels like a deep internal drive.
So maybe it's less about immediate financial return and more about, well, genuine scientific exploration, exploring the big questions about intelligence.
That seems to be a big part of it. And they even quoted Francois Truffaut when they announced they were getting into large models. Be desperately ambitious and desperately sincere.
That quote really captures it, doesn't it? The scale of the ambition, but also a sort of genuine commitment to the pursuit itself.
It really does.
Yeah.
So you end up with this picture of a top quant fund, masters of financial data, becoming this major force in AI infrastructure, driven by what they call the collective curiosity of a bunch of people. Still sounds a bit wild when you put it like that.
It does, but maybe we should think about it as curiosity as a competitive edge. Perhaps that scientific hunger, that vision Liang Wenfeng had way back, combined with their unconventional path, and crucially, their ability to build that massive GPU cluster early on. Maybe that's what uniquely positioned them.
That unconventional pass from a Chengdu rental to owning 10,000 A100s before almost anyone else, it's quite a story.
It really is. And that Truffaut quote again, be desperately ambitious and desperately sincere. It feels like their operating principle.
So maybe a final thought to leave people with. If a company built entirely on the cold, hard logic of financial algorithms decides that fundamental research into the nature of intelligence is its next major frontier.
Yeah. What does that signal about where innovation might come from next? Could it be that the biggest breakthroughs won't necessarily come from the places we expect? Maybe these unexpected players, driven by this deep curiosity, are the ones who will unlock things we haven't even imagined yet.